Stoicism is often praised as strength, the ability to endure, to stay composed, to carry weight without complaint. For generations of American men, Stoicism wasn't just a philosophy, it was a survival strategy, a way to function, to provide, to remain steady in a world that rewarded reliability more than emotional openness. And for a long time, it worked. But something has changed. Today, Stoicism is no longer simply helping men stay strong. Quietly, subtly, it is costing many of them something they don't realize they're losing until it's already gone: true intimacy. Most men don't wake up one day and decide to suppress their emotions. They are trained into it, early, repeatedly, often without words. Boys learn very quickly which emotions are acceptable and which ones create discomfort in others. Anger is tolerated, silence is rewarded. Sadness, fear, and vulnerability are quietly discouraged. Over time, this conditioning becomes identity. Men stop saying, "I feel," and start saying, "I'm fine." They stop naming emotions and start managing appearances. They learn to stay composed even when something inside them is unraveling. And externally, this looks like strength. Internally, it creates distance. Stoicism teaches men to control their reactions, but it rarely teaches them how to share their inner experience. Control becomes the goal, exposure becomes the threat, emotional restraint becomes self-respect, and gradually, intimacy starts to feel unsafe. Intimacy requires being seen, not just admired, not just respected, seen. And Stoicism, when taken too far, teaches men to hide the very parts of themselves that allow others to connect deeply with them. Many men confuse emotional openness with weakness, because that's how it was framed for them growing up. Vulnerability was associated with instability, with burden, with losing control. So they learned to contain everything: grief, fear, longing, doubt, even love. The problem is that what protects men from judgment also protects them from closeness. In relationships, this shows up quietly. A partner senses distance but can't quite name it. Conversations stay practical. Emotional topics feel shallow or unresolved. Conflicts are avoided rather than processed. Men believe they are being strong by staying composed, but their partners often experience this as emotional absence. The man is present but unavailable. Over time, this creates a painful contradiction. Men want connection, but they've been trained to avoid the very behaviors that create it. They want to be understood, but they rarely reveal themselves. They want intimacy, but they rely on self-sufficiency to feel safe. Stoicism doesn't destroy intimacy all at once. It erodes it slowly. Another subtle cost of Stoicism is that it delays emotional awareness. When men are taught to suppress feelings instead of examining them, they lose fluency in their own inner world. Emotions don't disappear, they go underground. They surface later as irritability, detachment, exhaustion, or numbness. Many men say they feel fine, but what they actually feel is disconnected. Not depressed, not angry, just distant. They go through life performing competence while quietly wondering why relationships feel unsatisfying or why closeness never lasts. This confusion often deepens with age. Men who have spent decades suppressing emotion often reach midlife with unprocessed grief. Losses that were never mourned, dreams that were never spoken, relationships that were never fully entered. Stoicism helped them function, but it prevented them from metabolizing emotional experience. And intimacy doesn't survive emotional backlog. True intimacy requires responsiveness, not just reliability. It requires emotional presence, not just physical presence. It requires a willingness to be affected by another person, not just a capacity to endure. Modern relationships, especially, demand this. Today's emotional expectations are different from those of previous generations. Partners don't just want stability, they want connection, communication, emotional availability. When men rely solely on Stoicism, they often feel unprepared for these expectations. They're not unwilling, they're untrained. What makes this especially difficult is that Stoicism is socially praised. Men are told they're strong for holding it together, reliable for not complaining, mature for not making things emotional. But praise reinforces behavior, and behavior repeated long enough becomes identity. So men double down. They become even more controlled, even more guarded, even more self-contained, and intimacy quietly disappears. The tragedy is that many men only recognize this loss after a relationship ends. When a partner says, "I never really felt close to you," or "I didn't know what you were feeling," or "I felt alone even when you were there." To the man, this feels unfair. He was loyal, present, responsible. He showed up in all the ways he was taught mattered. But the emotional dimension was missing, not because he didn't care, but because he didn't know how to reveal himself without feeling exposed. Stoicism taught him how to survive. It didn't teach him how to be known. There is also a deeper fear beneath Stoicism, the fear of becoming a burden. Many men believe that sharing emotional weight will make them less desirable, less respected, less masculine, so they carry everything themselves. They believe strength means not needing anyone. But intimacy is built on mutual need. Not dependency, but interdependence. The willingness to let another person see you when you are uncertain, afraid, or affected. Stoicism resists that. This doesn't mean Stoicism is inherently wrong. Discipline, composure, and resilience matter. But when Stoicism becomes emotional avoidance rather than emotional regulation, it starts to cost more than it protects. It creates relationships where men are admired but not deeply known, trusted but not emotionally close, respected but not intimately connected. And over time, that loneliness is heavier than any vulnerability they avoided. True intimacy does not require men to abandon strength. It requires redefining it. Strength is not the absence of emotion. It is the capacity to experience emotion without being overwhelmed by it, to share without collapsing, to be open without losing oneself. Men who learn this don't become weaker. They become more connected, more present, more alive in their relationships. Stoicism helped men survive a different era, but in modern relationships, survival is not enough. Connection requires courage of a different kind. And until that shift is understood, many men will continue doing what they were taught, staying strong, while quietly losing the very closeness they desire most.